Um, Thank you for joining us. Let me turn my camera on really quick. This is, first and foremost, I know that we're a little bit more than halfway into the semester, and I know it sounds odd that things have passed by so quickly, but we wanted to make sure that we had some time for student organization advisors to be able to get together, for us to really give any updates or answer any questions, but also for all the advisors to kind of have a discussion on best practices, any common trends or concerns that they have seen with their students. I cannot see the chat very well because I'm screen sharing. So if you have a question, I'm hoping any one of my colleagues can try and help manage that, but we're gonna get started.
Yeah, and you all, thank you for joining us. We are recording this, just FYI, so that for any of our faculty, staff, advisors that could not make this this open workshop, that we're going to be sharing that. So Scott, thanks. I know you've got to go teach class. Great. Hope your classes are going well to the faculty that are on here. Please know that we're resources here as well within the Office of Student Involvement and the Center for Student Engagement with myself, Naomi Ishihara, and Ebony Ramsey, our Assistant Dean as well. So please feel free to reach out to us. If I know that we've done some meetings with different student orgs already. So Scott and Father Noah, we've met with your groups and everything. So we're here to support what programming and things will look like. So I'm going to turn it back over to Naomi, but thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Okay, so this is an overview of what we'll be covering today. First and foremost, event planning timeline and recommendations, MSG funding updates, virtual movie screening updates, and any recommendations that we have for your virtual events for check-in, especially just to be able to take some assessment later on when you take attendance and all that. We want to be able to know what our numbers are for your events. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of go through these, and then I'm gonna hand it off to Peter to kind of go through the different event guidelines and the tabling requirements. So first and foremost, please place your graphic arts request at least two weeks in advance. If you already know and it's in months, put it in now, that's fine. So that is to give our graphic artists, we only have 4 graphic artists, the best amount of time to be able to get your cases done well and to give you a draft of what they come up with, and for you to give feedback. They are students and they are student workers, so they have a set schedule. And amongst this position that they have in the Center for Student Engagement, they have classes and other personal life and everything. So we want to make sure we're considering their time and their workload, right? So you can access the graphic arts request form on maryville.edu/CSE. The graphic arts request form has been changed a little bit for you to be able to find a little bit more specificity in your request. For example, you can type in the theme, color palette. So if you want to say, I want to have a Maryville theme and Maryville colors, you can say that. There's a box for you to put in text to include. So that is for you to be able to tell a graphic artist exactly what you want to put in there. As a recommendation for all graphic artists requests for digital signages especially, or really just as marketing as a whole, the less is more. The digital signage actually only run for about 15 seconds, I think. So if you can't read your design in 15 seconds, probably no one else can. So make sure you have just the most condensed version of your information, so then people can kind of find that very quick amount of information and take that in as well as they can.
And you can. So Naomi, can I interject real quick?
Absolutely.
You can also access this on Get Involved MU. If you wouldn't mind, Naomi, will you show them from the Explore page? So any information for your student organizations, your student organization leaders, and yourself is on Get Involved MU. In addition, we have a cool YouTube page. We'll put that in the link. Thanks to Naomi's great work this summer and our student leaders and some of our student workers. We have a plethora of like 12 to 15 videos up on YouTube that are tutorial videos done by our graphic designers. Amazing, right? We all know the amazing work and innovation that our students and campus community constituents do within our faculty and staff. But I want to thank Naomi and our student workers and graphic design students, Juliet Hune and Hannah Fales, for working on some of these videos this summer. So we want to bring that to your attention too. But if you go to Get Involved MU to the Explore page, you should be able to scroll down to the bottom and then you'll see a campus links, which has the academic calendar, campus events, the COVID events, gatherings, and guidelines. We get this a lot from students, your student leaders, on where do I go to find information? We want Get Involved MU to be it. In addition to the student organization handbook is up on iBooks for 2020, 2021, but those are the campus links if you scroll down. that the GAR is on there. We call it the GAR, the graphic artist request. So if you click on that, it will take you to the link and form to start filling out the graphic artist request. Because I know there's, we all get a bunch of links and we all have roles and responsibilities. And then if you scroll down, it will take you to that. So that is a very fast way to fill out the form. We've also changed the verbiage. So I would say we put on the form 14 days out, but I would advise your groups think 30 days out for, that's event planning 101, right? Sometimes our Maryville students do not, sometimes our student leaders don't think in that space, and we do too, right? I mean, we're human. We have a lot on our plates as Maryville employees and faculty and staff, but think in 15 to 30 days out to get those things up and running. But we have 4 designers and they're doing a great work in the Center for Student Engagement. If you have any issues with a GAR or need our time to run through it, we can do that. But also our 2 graphic designers did about a 20-minute tutorial video. Will you show them, not the video itself, but would you just maybe show them the YouTube page, Naomi, really quick?
I can, but my computer is acting very weird right now.
That's okay, I've got it. Do you want me to, can I screen share?
Thank you.
Yeah, don't judge my tabs, people. Don't judge my tabs. This is just how I work. So this is our Get Involved YouTube page. So if I'll put it in the chat, if you go to the videos, it would be how to submit a GAR, how to get started on Get Involved MU, how to submit an event request, how to do click and pull. And then if you look down here, it's almost a 10-minute video. It's 8 minutes and 49 seconds, I think, for how to request artwork and some best practices. And that's actually from the students. So these are really cool videos that we did. So I'll put that in the chat for you all.
All right. So, okay. So moving on, make sure you create your Zoom links and add alternative hosts. It makes it easier to be able to manage things like we are doing now. I made Peter a co-host for this. And for those of you that are teaching, you very much know the value of kind of knowing your Zoom layout, right? Our best recommendation to know exactly who is at your event is to enable a waiting room. Sometimes you will have moments that there are people that aren't supposed to be in your meeting and you will already be able to say, no, thank you, you can't come. Instead of having to deal with and react to someone that's not supposed to be in there, that might be doing or saying something that isn't appropriate. We want to make sure we are mitigating as much as possible. But waiting room is always something that I just do automatically. But there's our recommendation there. Okay, so you will need to, as best practices for event planning, double and triple check your event submissions and this discussions inside your event submissions, especially for the comments for updates. For tabling and on-ground events, that is going to be an ongoing conversation from Peter and Todd Lewis to be able to communicate any changes or questions that they need to be able to make the decision to review your event submission. As advisors, you will need to make sure that you're continuously selecting the thumbs up icon for your student organization events, but that is something that we have found that even though things are mostly virtual, we still have questions, we still want to know some details that we are missing. So this is where, Peter, I would love for you to come in and talk about this.
Yeah, so thank you, Naomi. First, before we go into that portion, is there questions right now? I know, we've been in the Zoom for about 14 minutes. Does anybody have a question about graphic artist request or event submissions before we get into kind of a deep dive into events a little bit? All right. No questions. Feel free to throw your questions in the chat or unmute yourself and interrupt. Be like, hey, I've got a question. That's okay. So we appreciate and value you and your time, and also the commitment to be an advisor for one of our great student organizations. So for the event submissions, right, the process has not changed. Your student organization VPs and presidents, that will not change as well for the spring. We are working on verbiage that will go out to you very soon about what does the spring registration look like as it relates to event submissions. Right now, all of the event submissions that are coming in are for the fall of 2020, and then we're working on some verbiage and guidelines for spring. We don't anticipate that anything is going to change due to our COVID strategies and due to St. Strong. So I would encourage you all as faculty and staff, but also as advisors to make sure that you're constantly sharing that information and with your students. So I am actually going to screen share it for a minute and pull that up. But as it relates to your event submissions, you can also enter them, but we do, even if it's an online, we want you all to make sure that you are going in and thumbsing up that information. A couple of things to look at when you're looking at those event submissions. Do a quick expand all, right? Make sure that the start date and end date is submitted. We had an issue where a student submitted an event at 5 in the evening for an event that they wanted that day at 2 o'clock. So the system automatically archived it. So just make sure that you're reviewing what your students are entering. The other thing is more information. So instead of saying, hey, we're going to do a rehearsal with our group tonight, the more information you can provide. Remember, once the event gets approved, it is front facing to our campus community, to our every student. That's all 11,000. So as long as you have a maryville.edu address or live.edu Maryville address, that is front facing to our entire campus community. Last year, I believe we had close to 3,700 plus students, faculty, and staff log in and utilize the system. So that's a large number, larger than we've ever had before. So we are reaching a great audience. And I can tell you from our master classes that our Assistant Dean Ebony Ramsey has been doing, we are averaging 2 to 5 adult and online learners in our Keith Lovin program. And it's been awesome. It's been really great to reach these learners, to engage them with our traditional undergraduate population in a leadership space that is constructive around leadership, engagement, and their Keith Lovin pathways. If you want to talk about Keith Lovin, we can do that at a later date. Please reach out to me or Ebony. So with the event submission process, yes, we want you to thumbs up and do it. Even though it's online and virtual, it's a Zoom meeting, right? Yes, all meetings need to happen virtually. A lot of students have been reaching out saying, hey, can we meet outside? We just want to see each other. Right now, due to the university's mitigation strategy, yes, all meetings, if you can do it virtually, they don't want you to do it in person. So that is the university policy there, and we made that even back in March. We moved quickly with the shelter in place to have all meetings for student organizations and meetings in general. Even for me personally, well, as Director of Student Involvement, I've not met with anyone physically in person with one of the 3 programming groups, Connect, Go Saints, or the mascot team that I advise. I am doing those meetings virtually, whether it's executive board, general board, or one-on-ones with my event chairs. Okay. We do want you to thumbs it up. In the virtual space, the University Events is not thumbsing up the virtual events because there's not a booking space on the EMS side. Does that make sense to everybody? Also, if you are looking to book an on-ground event, yes, we want that to go through for your student organization, right? We want that to go through Get Involved MU. As I've said to many of you, yes, if it is a student event, so I'll use Scott Lyle as the example with Notorious. Yes, if Scott is coaching, advising, singing, leading a general or executive board meeting in a maybe preparing for a virtual concert with Notorious, yes, we want that to be in the virtual space, and then that submission would go through Scott's president for Notorious. Then Todd Lewis with University Events, on the University Events side, will book that space for the student organization in EMS. That means when Todd's thumbs up goes into that approval process. Okay, I'm going to share my screen really quick to breeze through with the COVID-19 guidelines and regulations. Any questions before I move on about event submissions? Okay, if you have not seen this, this is our, we had a task force that was put together over the summer. Mainly it was our Office of Student Involvement. It was myself, Naomi, Assistant Dean Ebony Ramsey under the direction of Dr. Nina Caldwell, with Jacqueline Blankenship and Todd Lewis and other university leadership kind of coming together on what does a return to events look like. We just had a town hall last night with MSG, and we did say that events moving, Dr. Caldwell alluded to that, events moving into the winter and spring are going to be the same right now. We're going to watch the trends right now. The trend as it relates to the CDC and cases within St. Louis County, the state of Missouri are trending in the wrong direction. They're increasing. We've done a good job on our campus, and you can look at that as well, you all. You can look at those cases on St. Strong, look at the percentage by week and how many confirmed cases, et cetera, we have. So we're rooting those decisions in data. All right. One is a couple of things to point out here. You must have an approved event through Get Involved MU in order to have an event. all your virtual meetings, everything we want to be in Get Involved MU, and that's front facing. Right now, all space requests are due to the capacity. And right now we're staying at the capacity of 10 or less. So meaning 10 people or less, that is not changing. We're meeting with university events. Should that change, we'll push that out to you. And we're also meeting next week to talk about cold weather and what does tabling look like. All meetings, as you can see, will be conducted virtually. We did input in here too the videos on how to use the Cork app and download it, and also how to use the check-in and virtual app, which Naomi will get to the check-in app here in just a minute. Couple of things to bring about. Yes, we want you to use the virtual check-in app at your virtual meeting. So that should be the first thing you're doing, is having everybody check in, including you. So you can click that and check in, and it'll tell you, it reroutes you to Get Involved and says, you've been checked in virtually. A little blue icon comes up on the bottom of your screen. Gatherings, meetings, and events, again, I can tell you that yes, if you are planning to do an event on campus, we need to know where, the when, and the how, and that's what we can mitigate as well, right? So we can mitigate the day, the time, the location, and the where, the location, and then also the what. What are you doing at that event, and why are you petitioning to constitute a in-ground either gathering, meeting, or event? All right, and then that goes to myself, to Dean Ramsey, up even to Dr. Caldwell. External speakers and performers, correct. You will need to get approval for all external speakers and performers coming, whether to our campus. The question that was asked of me last week, even virtually, correct. That does not change the policy, because virtual is an extension of all of our student code of conduct and policies and procedures in the virtual space. Does that make sense? So yes, if you're a faculty member, I know that you have a separate vetting process to shop that up to your vice president of academic affairs or your supervisor within the academic side of the house, but we would just like to know information on that speaker. So a best practice is, what is their first and last name, address, a bio on that speaker. If they have a professional LinkedIn, Facebook account or page, what are they? Who are they? If they're tied to a nonprofit or profit organization, what are they? Also, you would need to submit a contract if you are paying that speaker. Traditionally, where there's an exception to that is if it is an adjunct or full-time faculty member or professional staff member. So if I was coming in to speak to Scott Lyle as a former drummer to Notorious, Scott would not have to get me approved to come in and speak with Notorious because I'm already a professional staff member on this campus or an academic person. It's really the outside vendors, et cetera. One change to our outdoor vendor to our vendor policy is there was initially some verbiage here about food trucks. We were just informed this week, and we'll be pushing it out to all advisors and student organizations next week, that food trucks will no longer be allowed on campus until further notice. So just having you at that. Food waivers, that process has not changed. So if you're looking at a food waiver or want food at a meeting, gathering, event that you're potentially got approved for, that's where university events will work with you on the event setup and on the food. And they're kind of the middle person that would be working on your student organization's behalf and coordinating with Fresh Ideas. You would need to, they would send you a food waiver to complete. Who is that vendor? And again, best practice is all of the information: name of the vendor, full name, contact person for that vendor, cell phone number, address, also any tax information or W-9, what are we charging, and an itemized invoice. So that's one thing. You can submit those forms for that on Get Involved MU. Also, those vendors or speakers, right now no speakers are coming to campus, right? We're not having visitors, but they would also need to, university events will help coordinate the health screening. So they work with public safety. Public safety would send that individual vendor the link to do the health screening prior to dropping a delivery or something off on campus. So I'll defer to university events on that protocol, but that is being done for any vendors coming to campus. The Maryville vans, again, only advisors can book a Maryville van, and they're at 25% capacity. I'll put this link in the chat as well so that you all can see this. The next is tabling. So as we move into tabling, we've done tabling successfully this year. Right now, the question that comes up is, where can students table? There's only one location on campus that they can table right now, which is Gander Quad. If two groups try to table on the same day, then we would maybe extend it into Library Quad. So next Friday, yes, we're going to do that. Two groups, I think it was Community Service Club and Go Saints. One's going to be on Gander Quad, one's going to be on Library Quad. Student organizations can only table 1 time a week for 4 hours at a time. They can't split that. So that's a question that we've asked. Well, can I do an 8 to 10 and then do like a 2 to 4? No, we want you to table all at once. Okay. Tabling also, they cannot solicit. Students seem to struggle with that word. That means, soliciting, marketing, selling a product, pitching your organization, right? We feel like you can do that virtually. You can share any messages, any virtual pamphlets, things of that nature. If you have a pamphlet, you should have a PDF for it. If you have a marketing piece, then you should have a digital sign that you should be putting up for it. I can certainly meet myself or Naomi or any representative of our team, even our graduate assistant, Mame Owusu-Hansu, who's doing great work, can meet with student organizations to walk through some marketing and strategies to get the word out for their student groups. Library Quad and Gander Quad are offline unless there's an overflow of that. Also, there's no electricity. One person from your organization must be at the table the entire time. Only one. University Events will provide 2 tables, 2 6-footers, front to front and back to back to make the 6 feet of social distance. They'll provide a plexiglass screen, a bottle of hand sanitizer, and then they also bring out one of the waffle boards, sandwich boards, that has COVID-19 protocol, wear your mask. Also, all the St. Strong policies are in place. So social distancing, wearing a mask, not touching, not handing. Everything that you give out at that table has to be prepackaged, okay? Also, the tabling hours are only Monday through Fridays from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Right now, if it's inclement weather, we will move the table inside, i.e. University Events will work with facilities and your student group if they're in real time and it starts to rain or weather comes through. Obviously, the safety of our students is our number one priority, we would make sure that, I think there's a question in the chat, Naomi, we would make sure that we would put that, the student safety in play. Okay. Again, all pre-food is pre-packaged. They are allowing tents. We haven't really used them because they've been using the overhang. University Events has been great with that in facilities to put the tables close to the windows on the main patio on the DUC quad. I believe there's a question.
No, there's not. Scott had a
Scott left. Great. Questions on any of the event submission and guidelines and tabling? I'll put this link in the chat. This information is also the very first page. I believe it's page 47 of our Maryville University Student Organization Handbook 2020-2021 on iBooks. We will be updating this. The last update was August 20th. We're now into October 22nd. So we will be updating that information shortly about the food trucks. And then cold weather, we're looking at what is that going to look like. I won't know yet until we meet with University Events next week. So by Friday of next week, all student advisors, student organization advisors, presidents and vice presidents will get an email from us, from yours truly, about what updates are being done to that COVID-19 protocol for gatherings, meetings, and events as it relates to tabling spaces moving into inside.
Okay. Ebony, I think we're going to talk about MSG funding. If you could kind of talk to the advisors about any updates.
Hello, advisors. Thank you all for joining us today. No updates to the funding policy. Just want to call your attention to letting you know that we have a fall deadline for turning in receipts, and we also have a spring deadline, and that is something that is new that was added this year. Preferably it was new because we were seeing lots of issues with students turning in their receipts on time and not receiving their funding on time. And so what we've done is instituted 2 new deadlines this year. So the first deadline is approaching. So if your student groups have been allocated money within the first 3 funding periods, so that's funding period 1, 2, and 3, all of their receipts are due November the 20th. And then if you refer to our student handbook and to this MSG funding policy, you'll find the spring deadline in there. I cannot remember it off the top of my head, so I don't want to be misquoted, but it is in the MSG funding policy. And we will be sending out reminders and highlighting that date as the spring semester continues. But did want to call your attention to this date of November the 20th. There is a form on Get Involved MU. It's called fall MSG receipt submission form. That is the form that all students fill out, whether if they have spent money or not. We like to know what events that they have actually completed through MSG funding. And so even if they didn't get any money, but they have actually vetted an event through the funding process, we ask them to fill that, or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Even if they don't get a reimbursement, I apologize. If they're not expecting a reimbursement, we still want them to upload the receipts that they have used to spend the MSG funds, because we account for every penny that is spent through the MSG budget. So we do reimbursements, we do transfers, and we do invoice payments. But sometimes you may use our click and pull system, or you might use the student involvement P card to pay for items, which means that you don't necessarily need to get a reimbursement back, but we still need those receipts back to account for that money. This is super important. That's why we're highlighting it right now, because if your group does not turn in the receipts for any funds that have been allocated to MSG, they're going to end up either not receiving the funds or owing student government the money. So they'll receive an invoice from student government at the end of the year that says you owe student government this amount of money. We don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure that if you spend money that has been allocated by MSG at all this year, that you get it turned in by these 2 dates. So you have the November days, convey that to your student organization so that they can get that in. Thanks, Naomi.
Awesome. Okay, so virtual screenings for movies is now available for on and off ground students. So this is a very big update, as now, since obviously a lot of things are virtual, we can't have a lot of gatherings, we still wanted to offer the opportunity for student organizations to show movies on campus. Well, for our campus students. So it is through our regular movie rights company, Swank. They are based here in St. Louis. They've been great. We've actually been able to work with their IT and our IT to get this going. What it looks like is that student organizations will be able to request a movie with the movie request form on Get Involved MU. They will be able to kind of ask for whichever movie that they would like. They still have to purchase the movie rights, though. You still have to purchase the movie rights. As always, it is a federal law if you if you just show a movie to a group of people and not pay for the rights. And I don't really feel like being sued. So with that.
Yeah, and I'll chime in too. The exception to that is on the academic side of the house. So this system is very similar. So for those of you that are on the faculty side of the house, you've been working with Teresa and the library on their system. This is a very similar system, but Swank had to go get licensing rights because it changes it, right? This is an open format. So you can show a movie for a class for educational purposes. However, if you're a professor that's advising a student organization, that student organization is going to show that movie, you still need to get the movie rights. It becomes public. The other thing that we are fielding from students is, well, hey, I own the DVD. I'll just play the DVD in my CD-ROM. Yes, those still exist on some PCs, mine included, thank you. So you can't just play that movie for everybody. You can play it for you, but you can't play it for everybody else. So if you put that movie out there on Zoom, then yes, we are in breach of federal law and guidelines as it relates to movie rights to that movie production company. So this is a great service. Swank is a local company that we've had a longstanding partnership with. Our sales rep, Chris Verling, is working with them. In addition to, we do have Swank Residential Life Cinema. That is a Swank product line. So think of it as a product line. This is a product line for student affairs, student life, for student organizations to be able to show movies. Resident Life is different, and that is tied to equipment that is in the residential halls. In the apartments, Saints and Potter Hall, Residential Life Cinema is available for residential students, but again, that is only for an individual resident to watch that movie. If Resident Life wants to do a group movie, which they're not right now due to COVID, but if they did, and they've done it in the past, then yes, Residential Life or that RA would have to vet Res Life Cinema for the movie rights to show that movie. So again, I'll just use the example. If Go Saints, I'll use myself, if Go Saints wants to show a movie, Remember the Titans, they find that it's on there, they're going to have to pay a fee for it, and then the link would be available. But Emma Bible, my president, cannot jump on to Zoom and play the movie on Zoom. Each student would have to play the movie from their mobile device, their iPad or PC, whichever the devices that they choose. And Naomi will talk a little bit more through the technical aspect of that, because her student organization campus activities board that she advises just did one of these yesterday, right, Naomi?
So yes, Peter, you're right. With there are only a couple exceptions, whereas I've Cinema, and I think you can only have very few people with you to be able to do it together. Netflix party, you can have a Netflix party, that is fine, but anything else you will have to buy the rights. So make sure you plan accordingly.
Yeah, and I know some of you have been here for a while. Students always come to us and say, well, it's the number of people. It's not. It's the public domain of it. So regardless of if Go Saints was going to show the movie in ABH or over in Walker Hall, it doesn't matter. It's still public, right? It's not being used for educational purposes, and I am not a faculty member doing a sports business management class or a marketing class, what have you.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So do note that newer movies are more expensive. Older movies are less expensive, but they do still cost. So plan accordingly. The movie link, so what will happen is, just like with any Zoom link or any meeting link that you have, Swank will provide a movie link for you to be able to put onto your online location for your events and to distribute. Students will be able to click that link once the day has started of your event. So say we had an event yesterday, we offered the movie Us to students. So starting at 12 a.m. yesterday, students would be able to click the link, and it would be accessible for them to watch Us anytime in that 24 hours on their own time, on their own device. They can click the link beforehand, but nothing will happen until the day of the event. And so it is really cool. We checked it out. It's really great quality. It's like watching Netflix, and that is how, honestly, it's a little bit more accessible for those that can't make it to one certain event time. Before I move on from movies, is there any questions? Okay.
Also, I'll piggyback that, Naomi. With this information is in the student organization handbook. It is kind of your roadmap, if you will, to engagement and student involvement for your student organizations. It is on page 71. We will be updating the iBooks. That was Naomi's project this summer. This was a project that I think we're now in our third phase or third year of doing the student organization handbook. It's been a huge success, so thank you. We did get it out at the beginning of the year. Last year it was mid-year, so we will be updating the university events policies as it relates to COVID-19 gatherings, meetings, and events for food trucks, making that adjustment, and then putting it into here. And then now that we have the information from Swank, we'll be updating that. But the movie rights and showing policy and Swank's information is on page 71, and it goes all the way to page 76. Technically 77 in the student organization handbook. So I would encourage your students to review that, as we do reference those to your students and advisors when they ask.
Yes. Okay. I will go through virtual check-ins. Let me stop sharing. So for your events, you will always want to take attendance. There's a way for you to do that. If you do not already know, we do have that video on our YouTube page, but I will go through it just now, just in case you do not have, if you haven't already looked at it. But when you go on to get involved in MU, you want to make sure that you're checking in people virtually. You don't have to write them down. You can go to your organization that you want to check out their event. And so you see, you click on their portal, you go to their events. So let's say for my event on Tuesday, there was a comedian. You go to that event link, there's an attendance URL. You would just copy and paste that into the chat and say, hey, welcome to the event. Make sure you click on this. And then once they click it, nothing really happens. It just takes them to the home page, but their attendance will be recorded. So that is a very easy way for you not to be able to kind of write them down and have it. But that is where you can kind of have that assessment, and that is very useful for you to be able to say, this is how many people went last year, we can plan for next year, right? And my last slide was questions. Does anyone have any questions? or other topics that they wanted to discuss for their student organizations.
And from the virtual check-in side, you all, we want that aggregate data. So make sure that every time you meet, every time I meet with Go Saints, CAB, or Connect, I meet with them too sometimes. Anytime I meet with Go Saints, the mascot team, or Connect, I'm encouraging them from a general board meeting, executive board meeting, to do the virtual check-in. Hats off to Robert Summers and to Reed last night. They were normally what you're doing if you're running an event. My advice would be you or the student or group of students within your leadership are running the chat. So facilitating that conversation, asking questions, fielding questions, also putting the virtual check-in. So you can actually copy it. There's a little blue button when you go into Get Involved MU on your approved event that, Naomi, can you maybe show that really quick? Do you have an event up really fast, an approved event? As you scroll down to an approved event, it says copy. There's a light blue button that says new. This is something that our Get Involved MU administrator, just the company that facilitates the page, the Get Involved MU for us, they added this literally in March, you all. Same thing, 2 weeks before our virtual involvement fair, they added a virtual fair option. We were great in working with Steve DeSalvo in the Office of Service and Spiritual Life because they did a virtual service fair. So if that's something for the academic side of the house that you're interested in learning how to do, it sits on Get Involved MU. Naomi led that charge. It was great. They literally launched that product 2 weeks before we returned to campus. Because the COVID guidelines had changed for the city and the county on July 29th. Up until that point, we had multiple plans in place on what did the involvement fair look like. The winter involvement fair will be virtual. If you have any feedback for us on that, please share that with me or Naomi. Also, for your student organizations, we're looking to program during the week of the 19th. So now we got that information correct, that our on-campus return will be Tuesday, January the 19th. That is Winter Welcome Week. We call it the Winter Involvement Fair. The fall one we just call Involvement Fair. And we have UAL, University Week of Welcome, which is the first week of August back. Then it turns to Winter Welcome Week. If any of your groups are programming on that week, or there's anything we can do to highlight executive general board meetings or virtual engagement for your groups, we're happy to do that. Also the Cork app, there is a video in there too, thanks, Ebony. Appreciate that. Great job to you too, by the way. Great job to MSG last night. But I would encourage you all, these videos, by the way, we have been reached out to, I can tell you, by 15 different institutions that have seen these videos on YouTube and have reached out to us about what's the platform, how did our students do it, how do we pull this off? So hats off to us, right? Sometimes we don't really sell ourselves enough, but thank you to Naomi, myself, Ebony, and our team. We're really proud of these videos. They're super slick. There's no really easy way for me to say that. They are really great videos that were student-led by two very talented graphic designers that are seniors, Hannah Fales and Juliet Hune, as well as some of our student leaders within the involvement geniuses and leads for the Center for Student Engagement, and Becca Austin and Haley Akihiro, two programming chairs within Connect that worked for us this summer that helped do these videos. So I think they're very simple. They're short. You can watch all 15 of them like within less than an hour. And I know we're all busy, but I would encourage you to watch these because other campuses are, because they're trying to react and push these out to students because it's just easier. Also, we are the gatekeepers of Get Involved MU if there's anything we can do to help you in that space. So if it's, please go in and update your group. So if you know that there's a student that graduated last year that moved on from the group, please encourage your presidents, vice presidents to update that. Also from the event submission process, I've probably done 20 virtual meetings. Thank you to Scott Lyle, to Father Noah. We are here and accessible to you. We've been meeting on Zoom, and I'm happy to set up yes why you can have that event or no why you cannot, to walk you all through that. I do not like to be the no person. That is a hard word on our campus to hear, right? Because we are a very accessible campus and engaging campus. It's just engagement has to look different this year due to COVID-19 and the mitigation strategies set out through the policies in St. Strong. And the last thing I'd like to say to all of you is I hope you are taking time for yourselves and walk. Thank you for being encouraged with this. If you know of any other faculty and staff in your purview or in your areas that are looking to get engaged and advise students, I have a running list. It's really small this year, but please, if you know of any other faculty or staff in your areas that would want to take on advising a group, we would absolutely welcome them, walk them through the training process. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Naomi. Using her USEM and talented virtual skill set to do the first ever Canvas training course. Thank you, Mame. So I hope you passed your quiz, but I do want to thank Naomi for that, because that's something I think that moved us into this millennia with engagement as it relates to training. So because we want to be mindful of your time. So if we can give you 10 minutes back today, it's 3:46. We're happy to do that. Steve said, there's a thing in the chat. I have actually not used the Get Involved MU virtual fail, but would like to have access to it so that I can see what is possible in the future. Oh, Steve, I thought you did your virtual, your spiritual fair, but yeah, we can walk you through that process and help you in that space. We are not the experts. We're still learning it to you all. This system is awesome. It constantly innovates and upgrades. And also congratulations to Ebony Ramsey, our assistant dean extraordinaire. She won a award, by the way, through MUSA for her great work in bringing Get Involved MU and the Quark app to our campus. It was long overdue, but we thank Assistant Dean Ramsey for doing that and for her leadership, because it has definitely transformed student organizations, student advisors, and engagement on our campus. Questions? We have a couple of minutes. I mean, if you want your 10 minutes back, 13 minutes back, we got you. We'll do that. So if any of you have any questions, please know we're here for you. Involvement begins here is what we say, and support begins here for you and for our staff. And thank you for what you're doing. And I know our students thank you as well. Naomi, anything else? Anybody else? Any questions, concerns? All right, cool.
Have a good day, everyone. I will put this on the portal in documents.
Yeah, and we're going to give 2 selfless plugs. It's all about marketing. Before we leave tomorrow, what time tomorrow for CAB if you want to stop by and get a pumpkin to carve?
10 to 2.
10 to 2 on Library Quad tomorrow. Steve, you have an event tomorrow. Do you want a selfless plug? Community Service Club.
Yes, we're doing a grab and go. Students are picking up pottery kits. Basically, they're going to get these cups that they're going to paint and decorate on Sunday, and they're called Belief Cups, or Believe is the theme, and then they're going to be donated back to some local cancer patients.
Great, thank you. And great job to Steve DeSalvo too with Family Weekend. They did a great Mission St. Louis to talk about poverty in the St. Louis area and how we can rectify that growing problem. Also for myself, Connect and Go Saints next week. There is no Fright Night this year, so if you're not used to being scared or haunted house, the tradition with Connect that normally they run is on the evening of Halloween, is they run a haunted house through the Center for Student Engagement till midnight. We won't be doing that due to COVID-19, first time in our history. I'm going to stop saying that word, pivot and shift, when this is all over too, by the way. And the word virtual, I don't think I ever want to say that again. But I joke, next week, if you want to get a pumpkin to paint, we're doing Saints Paint as a way to kind of have a fun event where students can come pick up a pumpkin. Thanks to Mel Stuckmeyer, we got 100 pumpkins donated. 50 will be given out tomorrow by the Campus Activities Board, 50 next week through Connect and Go Saints. So please stop by and do that as well. The last thing we want to bring to your attention is just there's a cultural appropriation video. If you have not seen it, we would encourage you to do that. Thank you to Maricela Reyes and Inclusion at Maryville. I am. Amar Hadzik is their president, as well as Connect. Mackenzie Eckert is our Fright Night and Halloween programming chair. But If you haven't seen the 2 digital signs going around about "This is my culture, it's not a costume," please have those conversations with your student organizations about making good choices around Halloween as it relates to cultural appropriation and being staying strong, wearing the mask, don't touch your face, wash your hands, to mitigate that as we move into the Halloween holiday next week. So if you could share those digital signs with your group, there's a great video, thanks to Chris Reimer and Adam Ward, that did that with us. That would be fantastic to push out to your groups, because we're really proud of that campaign and initiative that we put together this year within Student Life.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.